The interesting thing about that task, design a marketing strategy for the small hotel, or whatever it would be, Robert or Robertas can attempt that and do a reasonable job, but the Susans can be stretched and stretched and stretched with exactly the same task. And this is called differentiation by outcome, because they've got the same task, but the outcome will be different. But you've got to be very, very careful with this, because it's a lazy way out if you're not careful. You've got to be very, very careful that the task is genuinely open and will genuinely stretch Susans, and it's genuinely attemptable by your Roberts and Robertas. And that is very challenging from the design of task point of view, from the teaching point of view. There's a real professional judgment here about precisely what that task should be and how much detail you'll have in your scenario for that small hotel, and you know, there's a real issue there about that. Okay, let's just leave you for a moment. Lesson activities, assignments, task 1, task 2, task 3. Yeah? Why not? Questioning, beginning of the class, define marketing for me. Right? Later on in the class, we've seen two approaches to the marketing for this small hotel. Some people are saying they should use local television, and other people are saying not. Who would like to give me the arguments for and against using local television for this small hotel? Right. Way up there, evaluation. Yeah. So questioning. Some of the verbal questions will be evaluative, synthesis, analysis. They're why, how, you know, type questions. Others will be, remember what I said 5 minutes ago? What is marketing? Yeah. So, and then worksheets. You give students a series of little questions to do. How many maths worksheets do we see which end in an open, challenging task? Can you think of 4 other approaches to solving this problem than the way we've just looked at? Yeah? Why is this method mathematically valid? Yeah? The sort of why, the how, the evaluative type questions that really make the Susans of this world, first of all, they get excited by them, and secondly, they stretch them. So, a simple question for you, very challenging. Have you got ladders? Have you got all the rungs on your ladders? Yeah? Just give you 3 minutes.
Oh, volunteers, sorry. Yeah, volunteers, usually people know the answer. They don't want to use it.
The story so far is that we reckon a really good way of differentiating is to get all our students climbing this ladder. All of our students attempting the open, challenging task, and because the task has been so brilliantly conceived, the Roberts and Robertas will be able to attempt it and do quite a reasonable job at their own level at doing that, and they won't be jabberwocking. They'll be really making sense of the topic. But at the same time, and beside them, as it were, the Susans of this world will be greatly challenged by it. They could, you know, because it's open, it could be a PhD, it could be a sentence. Yeah? And if Susans tend to underestimate the task and they say, oh, I've finished, you know, you can say, well, hang on, you know, you haven't justified it fully yet. You know, what about the economic justification for that, or whatever it would be? And you can keep pushing them so that they never actually get to the end. And so consequently, you know, we are differentiating by outcome. Same task, different outcome. Danger rings, though, because there's a possibility that you will just say, well, I'm setting the same task to everybody, so that's it, differentiation done. It doesn't follow. It's got to be an open, challenging, reasoning style task. It mustn't be a reproduction task. It's got to be a challenging task, a reasoning task. And it's got to be open so that students can't say, finished. So when I earlier said, think of 4 other ways of solving this problem in mathematics, it would have been better to have said, think of other ways of solving this problem using other mathematical procedures, right? then when Susan says, hey, I finished, I've got 15, you can say, very good. See if you can think of a couple more. You know, whilst looking at them and thinking, God, I don't understand the last 4. You know, you're stretching and stretching and stretching. Meanwhile, Robert is struggling to try and do it the one way that you've actually practically shown them how to do, but haven't quite. But you've got that differentiation sorted in that following way. But it's harder to do than it sounds. It sounds easy, but it's not, actually. Because you have to devise, and there's a lot of professional judgment here, you have to devise the tasks which are just perfectly gauged so that the Roberts and Robertas can attempt it and do quite a good job and be busy doing useful work, and the Susans will be stretched. And it takes management as well, you know. Helping the Roberts while pushing the Susans is not easy. You're in, you know, 2 different mindsets at the same time sort of thing. Okay. Another way of differentiating is to differentiate by task in a different way, not by outcome, but to have different tasks for the Roberts and the Susans. I worry about this one. I have a personal preference for the previous one, which, you know, I've been criticised for, but I just have. This one, it works well when students are working towards completely different qualification aims, right? Functional skills, level 1, level 3, same class. What are you to do? Almost impossible to spend most of the time doing the same thing with both groups. You can't, it's just unreasonable. So you're going to likely as not set different tasks for these. You can't set the same task probably most of the time for those 2. You might be able to, but it would be hard to do that. However, not many of us do that. You know, many of us have a whole group of students all working towards the same qualification aim, but they're just very, very different levels of performance and so on. So, and some people suggest this, you know, that everyone must, some will, a few might. There's different wordings of this, but the basic idea is we have different expectations of our Roberts than we have of our Susans. I like to set high expectations for the Roberts and high expectations for the Susans. So I rather like the method I've described already, which is the open, challenging task, because that doesn't hold anybody up, you know. If I get it slightly wrong here, some students will be coasting because they've done the everyone bit, and now they think, oh, well, you know, I needn't do anything more. Whereas my other way, I think I prefer. But anyway, there's a real issue here about the everyone must. It mustn't be a Jabberwocky task. The easiest thing to do is to differentiate by saying, well, the weak students will be able to list 2 ways of banging a nail in a piece of wood or whatever it is you're teaching them. So, you know, so it's a very simple task indeed. It's low level, it's reproduction. And you're then saying, you're almost consigning the Roberts to low attainment by always giving them Jabberwocky tasks which never require them to make sense. And so if this method is used badly, both methods can be used badly, both differentiation by outcome or differentiation by task. But if this is used badly, what happens is you get these very low-level tasks, very low expectations of the weakest students. But the teacher says, oh, you know, I differentiated, and you know, the Roberts did that task, and you know, that was a successful lesson. But it was Jabberwocky, and the students Robert didn't understand it. So I worry about that. But if there are different qualification aims, you're forced into setting different tasks for your students, I think. But if you can get away with differentiation by outcome, the previous method, you know, the ladder approach, that would be my personal preference, although it's a challenging thing to do well. This one has some danger, but in a way, all methods of differentiating have dangers. There's lots of other aspects of differentiation. We've only been looking at ability, really. I mean, what about different preferences? What about age and other factors? You know, those could always be brought in mind as well. But I think if you get the ability aspects of things right, then you're getting quite a long way. So, do we have ladders in place? And also, can you improve your oral questioning with why questions, how questions, and which questions? When people go into classrooms and observe questioning, they find that overwhelmingly teachers use reproduction questions. They're asking what questions? What did I just say? They're more or less saying. And getting the students to repeat it back, sadly. And we need to get students to reason. And I think in some ways, some of the reasons why teachers don't like asking why questions and how questions and, you know, those higher order reasoning questions is that they ask the question and then there's silence. And so they panic and they give the answer or something. And I really wish that students, when they were thinking, made a whirring sound. Yeah? Because, you know, you could then say, you know, why do we do it like that? You know, and then there wouldn't be silence. There'd be, while the students are sort of thinking, oh, yeah, that's an hard one. And then we'd realize, hey, actually, this silence is not a bad thing. This sort of empty space, no talking, it's a good thing. The students are thinking, and that's a good thing. One brilliant strategy, very simple, is when you ask these questions, because they take more time, is to say, why do we do it like that, or whatever the question is. And then you say, you've got 1 minute in pairs, off you go. You've heard me do that today. Yeah? You've got 1 minute in pairs, off you go. And then the students start talking, and you know, that dialogue's immensely valuable, I think, really, really helpful. Okay.